Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Fireside Chat with a Retail Expert, the series from Simbe. My name is Caitlin Allen, and I'm the VP of Market here at Simbe. And today it is my delight to chat with Sean Spillane, who is one of our Strategic Advisory Board members, among many other things. Sean, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, really looking forward to diving in. For the folks in the audience, this conversation is being recorded, and you're able to ask questions at any point in time, and we'll incorporate them into our conversation. So don't be shy, please. And Sean, maybe we can just get started. You're by talking a little bit about your career. Would you mind introducing yourself to us?
Sure, absolutely. So most recently, I was with Stop and Shop, which is a $15 billion regional grocer in the Northeast of the U.S. About 400 stores, covers 5 states, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. Stop and Shop is one of the 5 Ahold Delhaize U.S. brands. It's the second largest of the Ahold Delhaize brands. There I led strategy, real estate, pricing, and format development. And prior to Stop and Shop, I spent 20 years in management consulting with Accenture in their retail strategy group. So worked with North American-based large retailers like Target and CVS and Best Buy and Advanced Auto Parts and others.
Thank you so much. And there are few people in the world that can be both operators and advisors successfully in their career. So hats off to you on that one. I
Thank you.
am curious, Sean, you're welcome. When you look back across your roles and the retail partners you worked with at Accenture as well as at Stop and Shop, among others, what would you say most shaped your perspective as it is today about retail strategy?
Yeah, I think it's to me, as I think about retail strategy, what I consistently see in the market and my experience was most of what retailers focus on a 1 year or 3 year strategy basis is what I would call operational strategy. So you have what I would call, and these are sort of my terms, corporate strategy, which are sort of the big board level decisions like, are we going to make an acquisition? Are we going to divest?
Mhm.
Um, those large scale decisions. What we commonly see and what we should see at the business level are operational strategies. So we're gonna we're gonna invest in pricing, or we're gonna significantly enhance how we go to market through our marketing channels. We're gonna deploy a new DC. So
Mhm.
these are very key for retailers because it really affects how they show up for the customer. And that's how they're going to differentiate in the marketplace is, do they have strong operational capabilities? Are they continuously improving and innovating around those capabilities? And that's really shaped my view of, if you're a very strong operator and you're continuing to innovate within your operations and you're continuing to improve within your operations, and you focus those 1 year strategies and those 3 year strategies on doing then just that, that's how you're going to win in the marketplace. Those are the retailers that are going to drive their strategy forward and win in the marketplace.
That makes sense. So a really strong tie between the shopping experience and the technological capabilities, perhaps, and the processes that are fueling retail operations.
And they don't necessarily have to be technological capabilities, right? They can be
Mm.
people-based capabilities. They can be process-based capabilities. Uh, you know, uh, Certainly underpinning all that is data and analytics, which requires technology, of course. But it's just not the technology; it's how the entire organization shows up to the customer.
Yeah, that's well said. You mentioned some of the retailers that you've worked with a few moments ago, Sean, Best Buy, Target, CVS. What would you say separates a great retailer from a good one?
I think there's 3 things. One is either a culture of change or a strong ability to enable
Mm.
change. So, if you think of, if you look at the top 10 US and North America-based retailers every 20 years, it's very surprising to most people how the retailers on that list change, right? It's actually not static. There's movement among the top 20 retailers over time.
Mhm.
And the reason is because some grow this culture or strong capability to change to change not only when they have to, but almost on a continuous basis. And it's those retailers that have this either this culture or this strong capability of change that are usually successful, along with a strong leadership team. And when I say that, the important word there is team, because
Hmm.
you may have strong individual leaders, but if they're not collaborating and teaming well together, given the importance of the integration of a retail supply chain and what that ends up presenting to the customer, you're just not going to perform well. So I would say this culture of change, this effective leadership team, and then the third and maybe the most obvious is a customer-centric mindset, right?
Yeah,
Those retailers that really focus on the customer experience and what's going to work with the customer and how we're going to differentiate to the customer around our experience. I think it's those three things.
makes a lot of sense. Three good pillars for sure. And maybe as we talk next about your experience with shelf digitization at Stop and Shop, we can bring some of those pillars to life through the anecdotes that you'll share with us. But on that note, Sean, as you mentioned, you were one of the first executives in the US. Oh, pardon me, as you mentioned, you were at Stop and Shop. And
Mhm.
while there, you were one of the first executives in the US to bring shelf digitization and robotics into a major grocery chain. And I would love to understand what motivated both you and the executive team to pursue that, as well as the impact that it had through the lens of the shopper obsession or centricity you're talking about, as well as what change management was involved.
Mhm. So there were two overriding objectives when at Stop and Shop we began the program.
Mhm.
One is on its simplest terms, saving cost savings. Now, the reason I say on its simplest terms is uh, grocery, not just Stop and Shop, but grocery in general, is always looking for ways to reinvest in price. Price is extraordinarily important to the customer, and therefore, if we're able to save somewhere else, we can then take that money and reinvest in price. So there was no doubt that one of the drivers for us was the cost savings. The second driver was customer experience, right? If we're able to
Mhm.
improve our customer experience and differentiate ourselves around customer experience, then that's a good thing. So those were really the two main drivers were, is this going to be able to save us operational costs that we can then reinvest in the business? And two, is it going to help us improve the customer experience for our customers?
Amazing. What would you say, and I'm sure there were many, but what would you say were the main lessons that you gathered alongside your peers from the experience that might influence how you think today about the role of shelf data in setting retail operations up for success and then fueling that shopper experience you started out by
Yeah.
talking
And
about?
so some of these learnings were things that I wish we would have done differently. Some of the
Mhm.
learnings I think we did well on. So the first thing I think is move fast. It's easy to say if we knew now, then what we know now.
Yes.
But the business case is very strong. Obviously, the faster you move, both not only just the rollout, but improving the functionality over time quickly, and adding to that functionality, the more value you're going to drive for both the bottom line and the customer. And so the first thing is I would tell retailers move fast.
Mm.
The second thing, the change management is very important. At Stop and Shop, we had a unionized workforce, and that presents certain issues that you have to address. And so the change management, the folks who are going to actually work with the in-store robot, with the shelf digitization solution, it's important to be proactive about the change management that they're going to go through. It's also,
Yes.
and I think we did a very good job there. It's also important for the change management for the customer, right? There's this new thing roaming the stores, and as they get more common across retail, then it will be easier. But at Stop and Shop, we were one of the first to have at scale, in-store robots. So you've got to communicate and manage the change for the customer as well.
Mm.
I think the third thing, and something we learned as we went, was the change in human behavior as you actually get the data and you learn what's happening at the shelf and how the store associates then will react and change their human behavior based on what they're seeing in the data. So it's this visibility that the store associates didn't have before, and we're able to react to that the visibility of that new data. But that also changes their behavior because they say, wait, I want to do better. I just don't want to react and solve the issues through the data I'm now getting. I want to prevent the issues. And so the next time I get the report, there's actually fewer issues. And that was a little bit of a surprise. So it's a very pleasant surprise. But we
Hmm.
learned that, and I don't think it was something we necessarily expected. And then I think the last thing, and this is a learning that is one of those things I wish we had done, but we learned is I wish we had brought the merchants in earlier. It was a very
Ah,
store operations based program, which makes a ton of sense. It's an in-store solution. It was, it's going to be led by the store ops team. So having them lead it made a lot of sense. But the merchants were aware, but weren't necessarily involved, didn't have a stake in it. And as we increase the functionality of the solution, some of that now can really aid the merchants, and they haven't been along for the ride, so to speak. So that was one of those learnings where I would say, boy, if we had to go do it again, I think we would do it a little differently.
well, and to your point, that is the benefit of hindsight, but it also speaks to what you had said at the outset around the executive team needing to be one team.
Yeah.
And so a very valuable learning. Thank you. If there are those in the audience that might be considering digitizing the shelf with robotics, what advice would you give them that might be different from what you've said already?
Yeah, well, maybe not different, but a little nuanced. So I mentioned go fast.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean don't pilot, right? Because in most instances, retailers will want to pilot something. You learn from the pilots. But I would say don't do an extensive, you don't need an extensive pilot. The business case is there.
Mm.
Um, it's large. I would say move faster than you normally move. That might be, a not so intensive pilot as you might otherwise do. Secondly, and I did mention this, but bring the broader leadership team into the fold of the program immediately. And again, I'm pointing to merchants, but the CFO is going to be interested in how this affects the financials. Of course, the store ops teams, the merchants, HR, because it has an effect on the associates within the store. I really
Yes.
think if when you're thinking about a program of implementing this solution, really have the full leadership team involved from the outset in deploying that solution and talking about what it could bring, the value it could bring to both the customers and and the bottom line, not only in the short term, but in the longer term as potentially functionality is built out.
Mm. That's great. Maybe we can shift gears a little to the topic of why you did us the honor of joining our strategic advisory board, Sean. You said a week or two ago in a conversation with us that one of the things that sets Simbe apart is the fact that I think you used the word visionaries, and you also said that we orient around the highest value opportunity for our clients rather than being order takers, which is very common when technology is relatively nascent in a competitive, or pardon me, in an industry. So I would love to dig into what you meant by that for those in the audience that are evaluating vendors as potential thought partners with new technology like ours.
Yeah, if you think about how Simbe started, it really started with a vision of how can computer vision, AI, robotics add value to retailers
Hmm.
and improve the customer experience. And it was really this vision of how do we improve, how do we get better, how do we use these solutions, but it was really based around the value to the customer and the value to the retailer. And I think that's carried forward from what I've seen, certainly in how Simbe works with clients, right? It's a very partnerial, value-based relationship on how can our solutions help you and help your customers improve the experience, and ultimately improve the bottom line. And I think what I see is that's really in the culture
Mm.
of Simbe. I mean, literally, Simbe has a group called Client Success, and just the way that I've seen Simbe partner with the retailer on deploying the solution, determining how the best, what's the best functionality, what are some other opportunities that might not be presently in the current functionality that they can go for. And I see this as really coming from how the company started around, yeah, there's a solution here, there's a technology here, but it's really about driving value for the retailer and experience for the customer. And that, I think, not only is differentiated for Simbe in its marketplace, but frankly, when you get any solution provider who really is forward-looking, a vision, a customer, that's always a win and usually differentiated in the marketplace. And that's what I see. That's what I see in Simbe.
Well, thank you for that. And you're right, the point of focus around mission and what a company is there to do is so important and integral for success because it involves like success at our company stage involves saying no to many things, so we can say yes to the things that matter. So you nailed that from that perspective as well. What would you say, Sean, are the strongest entry points in retail today for a shelf intelligence platform like Symbies, particularly within the context of all that is vying for dollars and attention on the innovation table?
Mm. I think there are two obvious ones. One is the head of store operations or the head of retail ops, depending on the terminology that a given retailer uses. But the solutions are going to be in the store. You have to have that leader uh, really engaged, um, really believing in the solution, and really enabling the solution to be deployed appropriately within the retail environment. That is absolutely critical to have that leader within retail ops, store ops at the table from day one. The second is the CEO. We've discussed how this has an effect on HR, right? Because it has an effect on your in-store associates. There's a lot of merchandising value here that the merchants can gain through the solutions that can be provided. The CFO is going to be interested on how this affects, the financials. The one person who brings that all together is the CEO. And I think having the CEO at the table at the beginning helps to broaden the potential, the opportunities, and the value that these solutions can bring, because that CEO is the one person who can say, this is going to have an effect on my customer and my retail ops team. This is going to have effect on my associates. Merchandising can use this data and these solutions. So I think to me, it's those two individuals. It's the head of retail ops and it's the CEO.
Mhm. Such crucial ingredients too for bringing the business case projected value to life, to your point. They're both very, very good points. Curious as we close out the section around Simbi, there are many things that you're helping us with already as one of our strategic advisors, Sean, and I'm, from a personal perspective, just curious to learn what are you most excited about as you think about helping us shape our industry and the future of retail operations and, our role within it?
I think there are two things. I think in the short term, especially in grocery, but certainly in other hard lines retailers, I think these solutions are gonna grow fast.
Mhm.
I think because I truly believe in the business case, and I think the business case is strong, that I think you're gonna see this market take off. And I think being involved in helping to help the market see that this value is here and just be a part of that sort of excitement and that real growth, I think that's going to come quickly. I think
Yes.
it's going to be a lot of fun trying to figure out how to, handle that, how to ride it, how to enable it. The second thing is the future functionality of the solutions. There are strong capabilities within Simbe today, within Tally today. I think there's a whole host of things that um, it can do in the future that are more roadmap than are that exist today, and figuring out what those are, but more importantly, what are the most important ones to the retailers? What are the most important ones to customer experience? I think that's going to be very interesting, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's exciting for me too, both from the mass adoption perspective, very much at that tipping point today to your point, and then also architecting the art of the possible, is
Yeah.
very exciting.
What's
Perhaps
Tally going to look like in 5 years, right? I mean,
it's
that's
true. It's true, and who will Tally's friends be besides Tally Spot and Tally RFID?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Perhaps broadening a little bit, Sean, around retail trends holistically. You've been part of the evolution of retail strategy for decades now, and so you have a amazing vantage point for this next question. But I'm curious what trends are top of mind for you as the ones that are probably the defining trends of the next few years in our sector.
yeah. No surprise. The first one is AI. It's kind of like
Yeah.
what's important in real estate's location, location, location. My first answer is AI, AI, AI. There are so many applications that I believe AI can be used in to drive value. Um, I think that's, you're going to see a lot of investment. You're going to start seeing it both operationally within the operations of retail, but also customer facing. If you think about hyper personalization, there's been a lot of advancements on personalization through advanced analytics, but AI can really take that to another level. When you think about personalized promotions and personalized loyalty, personalized recommendations, and that's all customer facing stuff. So you have the customer facing and you also have the operational. So that's sort of an easy one, right? That's going to be probably first on everyone's list. I think we're also going to see, and we've already seen it, is the evolution of the supply chain, and especially with delivery, faster delivery, more ways to get your deliveries. Again, as um, retailers are trying to have a great customer experience, but also try to do that as cost effective as possible so they can use those dollars to invest in other areas. So I think we're going to continue to see whether it's drone delivery, it's the automation of the DC, it's
Uh-huh.
delivery driverless delivery trucks. You're going to continue to see those changes in the supply chain. I think from a market perspective, I think you're gonna I think you're gonna see the big players are gonna continue to win, right? So if you think about the shorter term with Walmart and Amazon and Costco and Aldi, and one of the reasons I think is because they have the investment dollars to invest in this stuff. Um, when you think about supply chain is, it's a big capital investment, and I think
Yes.
they're just gonna have the capital to invest in these things. So I think from a sort of a market perspective, you're gonna see that. And then there's things like, you know, uh, social media, selling platforms of social media, and that will continue to evolve. Retail media is gonna continue to be a big focus for retailers, and that will continue to evolve. And I think we're going to see a lot more technology in stores. If you think about 20 years ago, it's the POS system and it's, not much else. I think you're going to see associates with mobile devices that are much more common, but also have much greater functionality to help the customer and help the associate. You're going to see far more in-store robots. I just think the in-store technology, you're going to see a lot more of it. It's going to have more and better functionality to help the store associate and the customer as well.
Mm, yeah. I'm curious to double click into that. The first point you made around the AI
Yeah.
importance. In terms of shape, as retailers think about reinventing their operating model with intelligence systems, um, in support of the large investments they've already made in supply chain, the investments they're making in retail media, and the way that it might even incorporate the help of in-store technology. How do you see that reinvention come to life, and what role does shelf digitization play in that shift, whether it's Symbia's technology or not?
Yeah, I mean, AI is without a doubt going to change the way that retailers operate. So there is going to be this shift in the operating model, both at the store level, with the customer facing associates as solutions like Simbe and other in-store technology take place,
Hmm.
as well as back office, right? There's going to be back office shifts as well. And I think it's going to be a good shift because I think you're going to have improved capabilities. You're going to have better data. You're going to have more functionality, and that's going to improve the overall operations. Now, that will have effects on the operating model, right? You're now going to have
Right.
these technical solutions that you didn't have before, and they're going to be very important in what you deliver to the customer. And so a solution like Simbe is going to have a big effect on that, right? So if you use the simple scenarios where Simbe is now providing um, tasks that potentially store associates used to provide, if it's now
Right.
providing additional data that store associates didn't have before, you now have different processes that your store associates are going to go through. You may even have a different makeup of store associates. You may even have a different structure of how you deploy the store associates. And again, I'm just using the store as an example. You can go to your marketing group and say the same, if they're going to use AI for marketing campaigns, well, now we need a different structure. So the technology that enables that is going to drive the change and also help improve the effectiveness of both the output and the operations themselves.
Hmm. Yes, that makes a lot of sense because all of a sudden things like intelligent demand forecasting, automated reordering, those start to become possible and merchandising with will have much more real-time information where the way that those decisions and campaigns and planograms are built and put together really shift as well to your point.
I think it's going to be a real plus for retailers. I really
Hmm.
think it's going to be um, new capabilities that are really going to be able to free associates to do more high value work uh, and better productivity because of the data and the insight that they're now going to have.
Yeah. Well, and those are the things to be able to focus on the things only humans can do is where that time will be repurposed.
Hmm.
I also am excited for what's possible if you think about, all the wearables and the smart fridges that we have in our homes and the voice assistants and in a future state, what starts to happen if with real-time information about inventory, does the home through that digitization become an extension of the store? Can agents order for
Right.
us, make recipes and shopping lists for us? And of course, this is well into the future, but the foundation of that kind of commerce is knowing where your items are and making sure that they're in stock, available for sale, and at the right price, which is, obviously the foundational elements of what we do today.
Agreed. By the way, I don't have a smart fridge, so not yet anyway. If I did, it would probably tell me to go away more often than than it does right now. Yeah.
Isn't that the truth, though? Same page for me. Um, You might have answered this already, Sean, but I'll ask it anyways. If you were back in the role of owning strategy today,
Mhm.
at a grocer or at a retailer, where would
Mhm.
you be placing your bets?
So, AI, obviously, I would be heavily investing and I would do it across the organization. There are just so many spots for AI to help. I do think I mentioned this. I think there's going to be in-store technology, whether it's mobile devices for associates, whether it's solutions like Tally,
Mhm.
whether it's what you do on the phone for your customer,
Yeah.
right? Whether you make it easier to find items within the store through the customer's device. That's where I would be placing my bets because that's where you're improving the customer experience and you're improving your internal operations so that turns into a better customer experience. So it would be AI, it would be in-store technology, and then the third thing would be the supply. I go back to that supply chain. I think you've got to continuously um, invest in that supply chain. And not that the store isn't part of the supply chain, it is, but I'm just taking it back a little bit in terms of the management of that supply chain.
Yeah. Closing out the conversation, when you look at the retail ecosystem today, what excites you the most about where we're headed? And do you have any predictions as we approach 2026?
So for retail in general, any predictions on 2026? I
Mhm.
think you're going to see. I think the investments in in-store technology have already begun. So I think customers are actually going to start seeing more in-store technology in 2026. It's certainly not going to end in 2026. It's going to continue to grow, but I think there's already been investment that's actually going to start to appear more frequently for the customers in stores. I think that's going to begin in 20. It's already begun, but I think it's going to become even more prevalent in 2026. Um, and so, from a customer perspective, I think that's what customers are going to see. And what does that mean? That means they're going to have a better experience.
Yeah,
They're going to find that their interactions with associates are going to be more valuable. They're going to find that the items that they're looking for are going to be easier to find and that they're actually in stock when they get there. Um, so I think customers beginning in 2026 are going to, because of these new technologies, especially those deployed in store, are going to start having a better experience.
makes a lot of sense. It reminds me a little bit of the shift we all went through when smartphones were taking off. It was, at first unusual to see a mobile phone, and now, it's weird to not see one in someone's hand. And I think we'll probably be at a place in the future where going to a store that doesn't have technology will feel similarly alienating as a person that doesn't have a cell phone today.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when the smartphones came out, even before the smartphone. One of my bosses, one of the very, very bright guys, said, why is everyone going to want to have a phone in their pocket? That doesn't make any sense. It's really not a phone, it's a computer in your pocket, and I like how you describe it. People are going to say, what do you mean you don't have the solutions within your store that are going to make this a better shopping experience for me? And eventually they're going to be there.
Yeah, no, very well said. Well, Sean, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for lending the time for it. And also thank you again for joining our strategic advisory board. We are extremely proud and excited about what all we're going to do together.
Well, thank you for having me here. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm really looking forward to the strategic advisory board.
It'll be good. And to those on the line listening, thank you as well for being here. Hope you all have a wonderful day and see you next time.
Take care, everybody.